Hello, everyone, and welcome to our joint webinar this afternoon with Housebuilder Pro. Thank you to Nick and his team for putting this all together. My name is Chris Jones of Reclaim Tax UK. We've worked with several hundred clients across the UK to become more tax efficient and essentially help them take advantage of various government incentives that are available to them. Around about 60% of all of our clients have been in the construction sector, and a number of them are house builders. And construction, by its very nature, is innovative. No two sites are ever the same, and often industry standards go out of the window with the challenges presented on site. So, why does this matter? The construction sector is missing out, essentially. So, if we take a look at the bigger picture for a moment, in the 2021-2022 tax year, the UK government paid out an incredible £7.6 billion in R&D tax relief across all sectors. So that figure just shows how serious the government is about encouraging innovation in British businesses. But here's the surprising part for me. Only 4% of all R&D claims come from the construction sector. That's despite construction being one of the biggest and largest employers in the UK, as well as the most technically active industries. Now, when we narrow the focus to house building, the picture becomes even more interesting. This is an area filled with compliance-driven innovation, from sustainable design to meeting evolving building regulations, adapting material shortages, and applying modern methods of construction. Yet despite all that real innovation, many house builders don't recognise their work as R&D, and as a result, they miss out on funding that generally they're entitled to. The gap isn't about a lack of innovation. Unfortunately, it's a lack of awareness, and that's exactly what we're here to try and change today. Now, innovation is happening, but it's going unclaimed. Construction is a cornerstone of the UK economy. It accounts for around about 7% of GDP and supports over 2.7 million jobs. And within that, house building plays a central role, constantly evolving to meet the demands of regulation, sustainability, and modern living. We're seeing a surge in innovation across the sector, particularly with the rise of modern methods of construction, the push for low carbon housing, the increasing use of BIM and other digital tools, and new developments in building materials and sustainability. These are all areas rich in technical challenges and problem solving, which, as we'll see in a moment, are often exactly the kind of activities that qualify as R&D in the eyes of HMRC. So if innovation is happening at this scale, the real question becomes, are construction and house building companies getting the recognition and R&D tax relief they deserve for that innovation? Let's take a look now at what R&D relief actually is and how it applies to the work you're already doing. So let's start with what R&D tax relief actually is. At its core, this is a UK government incentive designed to encourage businesses like yours to invest in innovation. So if your company is solving technical problems, developing new construction methods, testing materials, or improving systems, you could be doing work that qualifies as R&D in the eyes of HMRC's guidelines. What's really powerful here is the financial support. Companies can receive a cash credit or reduction in corporation tax, depending on their profitability. The typical return is anywhere between 15 and 27% of your qualifying R&D spend. And that applies to whether you're profitable or loss-making. It's equally applicable to both. Just depending on your own circumstances would determine what the actual return would be. For some companies we work with, it's become a reliable and strategic source of funding for ongoing innovation. So it's not a one-off, it's something you can claim annually, assuming you've conducted the relevant qualifying activity during that financial period. So let's just move on to the key criteria. So what qualifies as R&D? So how do you know if your work qualifies? HMRC has 3 key criteria. And if you meet these, you're potentially in R&D territory. So firstly, the project must aim to make an advance in science or technology. Now, often when we mention that to anyone in the construction sector, straight away their initial response will be, that doesn't apply to me. What you've got to remember about those 2 sectors is they are vast sectors, science and technology. That doesn't mean inventing something brand new to the world, but it does mean creating or improving a product, process, or system in a way that goes beyond industry standard practice. For example, if you're finding a new way to build more energy efficient homes using timber frames and you're overcoming unknowns to make that work, that could qualify. Second, you must be addressing scientific or technological uncertainty. In other words, there has to be a challenge where the outcome isn't obvious, or a competent professional in your field, it isn't obvious to them either. This often means that the solution is not readily available by just hiring a subcontractor, or, believe it or not, just Googling the answer, which is often used by businesses when they don't know how to do something. If a project involves trial, error, and design iterations, or testing new materials to solve a problem, that's a good sign you're dealing with genuine uncertainty. Third, your approach must be systematic. This means you're not guessing or having a go, you're working in a structured way to try and get to the outcome. You might not be successful in getting to the outcome, because R&D projects are equally qualifiable for failed projects as they are successful projects, but at least just showing a systematic way of working to try and get to that defined result where you want to be. So HMRC wants to see that you followed the process, not just had a lucky breakthrough and thrown a few things together, that's what you had lying around in the yard and you've finally got the outcome. It has to be some form of trial and error iterations, whether that be prototyping, variations, you try something that didn't work and you keep trying until you find a solution that does. So technically, when you look at a project, ask yourself, did we push technical boundaries? Did we solve problems others haven't cracked yet? And did we do it methodically? If so, there's a strong chance you're eligible to claim R&D tax relief. A good rule of thumb that we usually use with our clients is what we call the scratch your head test. If you're presented with a challenge and you've got experienced people in the field that kind of makes them stop, scratch their head, they've not come across it before, then they have to pull in various other members of the team to try and come up with a solution. They try something that didn't work initially, then they go back, they involve the other team members potentially, or bringing in some third-party assistance to try and help solve some of the technical issues, then that is a good indicator that it's a project that's worth considering for R&D. So let's now have a look at a couple of real life examples. So our first example is a sustainable housing development. So this company set out to design a low carbon home that would meet or exceed the future home standard. Now, while sustainability is a goal for many, what made this project eligible was the uncertainty involved in achieving it. They tested new insulation materials, addressed thermal bridging at structural junctions, and used energy modelling to evaluate different design solutions. That process of trial, analysis, and iteration to solve a technical problem where the outcome wasn't known in advance is exactly what HMRC defines as R&D. Next, we've got a project focused on integrating renewable energy into a residential scheme. The objective here was to power the entire development through on-site renewables, think solar PV, battery storage, air source heat pumps, etc., and make it work efficiently. That sounds relatively straightforward, but what made it R&D was the complexity of designing the control systems, modelling unpredictable energy usage, and ensuring everything worked in harmony across different property types. So the team faced genuine technical uncertainty and had to develop their own bespoke software and integration methods to make it viable. Moving on to the new timber frame design. So this example focused on redesigning a timber frame system to improve thermal efficiency, specifically to reduce heat loss through junctions and improve air tightness. So they weren't just tweaking a design, they were creating something that hadn't been proven before. So they tested new joint configurations, modelled structural performance, and built prototypes to measure real-world thermal bridging. Again, this process of overcoming technical challenges where a competent professional wouldn't know the answer up front squarely falls within HMRC's definition of R&D again. So finally, a great example involving modern methods of construction. A company that wanted to reduce housing costs by adapting prefabricated construction for a constrained urban site. But the system they were using had to be customised. They developed new module interfaces, dealt with intolerance and installation challenges, and created bespoke lifting and assembly methods. It wasn't off-the-shelf implementation. They were solving technical challenges through iterative problem solving. And that's the heart of what R&D tax relief is designed to support. So here are two brief examples of companies who we've successfully claimed R&D tax relief for, showing how innovation in construction comes in many forms. So Shropshire Homes represents a traditional on-site house builder, tackling technical challenges through practical innovation on the ground, whilst Cogent Consulting operates in a world of off-site construction, so developing and advising on modern methods of construction. Two very different approaches, but both equally valid when it comes to qualifying for R&D relief. It's a great reminder that whether you're building on-site or designing systems off-site, there's likely valuable innovation happening that can be supported through the R&D tax relief scheme. Okay. HMRC have made some significant changes in the past couple of years to HMRC guidelines, etc. And for me, the most notable one which businesses really need to be made aware of is something really important update is the pre-notification requirement. So this was introduced by HMRC for accounting periods on or after the 1st of April 2023. So a lot of the claims that we're seeing currently today at this period of time are affected by this particular piece of legislation. So if you're claiming R&D tax relief for the first time, or you haven't submitted a claim in the last 3 accounting periods, then you now need to notify HMRC within 6 months of your year end that you intend to claim. If you miss this deadline, you won't be able to claim R&D relief at all for that financial year, even if the work that you've carried out qualifies. And believe me, there is no flexibility around this. We have seen firsthand clients who have come to us at too late during their financial year, month 7 onwards, and there is no wriggle room to allow us to get around it. So, for example, if your financial year ends on the 31st of December 2024, then your notification must be submitted by the 30th of June 2025. If that doesn't happen, you are unable to claim for that given period. So the actual process of the pre-claim notification is relatively straightforward and simple. It's something we always conduct with our clients on their behalf. It's it's not very time consuming at all. So it's a simple form submitted online, but it's crucial it's not overlooked. So if you're already claiming regularly or you've claimed in the past, you may be exempt from this step. But for the first time or returning claimants, it needs to be on your radar very, very early on. And what I would say to everybody on this call today is consider what your year-end date is. Consider when this 6-month deadline could impact you. And if you believe you may have an opportunity to make a claim for that period, please do take action, because I have personally seen more than one business that has left significant sums of money on the table by not taking action quickly. We're talking potential client benefits of upwards of £500,000 in two of the examples that I've personally seen. There's been many others for smaller size claims as well, but it is a very, very real deadline that will impact you if you don't take action. Okay, so moving on to best practices for claim success. So once you understand R&D tax relief and identify where innovation is happening within your projects, the next step is making sure your claim stands up to scrutiny, especially as HMRC has increased its oversight here. So naturally, we would carry out a lot of the process for clients. However, there's always lots of information that can assist us in making their claim as robust as possible. So there are 3 key areas where adopting best practice makes a real difference. So first is detailed record keeping. You need to maintain clear, accurate, and consistent records. So track R&D activities as they happen, document project process, keep clear evidence of technical challenges and outcomes. That could be anything from designs, emails, those kind of things. So just making sure that you keep those things available. So secure storage of financial data is essential. And when this is in place, pulling together a robust claim becomes far easier and faster. Second, expert consultation. So working with professionals like us who specialise in R&D tax relief can make a significant difference. So they'll help interpret the criteria correctly and ensure you're claiming what you're entitled to, no more, no less, and keep you up to date with legislative changes. So a good R&D partner brings structure, credibility, and confidence to the process of you submitting your claim. And I'd like to think that we sit within that category. Third, regular reviews. So don't treat R&D claims as a one-off exercise. Build in regular reviews to monitor projects in real time, checking for ongoing eligibility, and adapt to any changes in HMRC's guidance. So often our clients will call us during or even after a project has been completed to ask our opinion on whether or not the activity that they've carried out is likely to qualify. So this is the best way to maximise your claim and minimise risk. These practices not only help ensure compliance, they also help you capture every pound of innovation you're already investing in your business. So at Reclaim Tax UK, we've designed a streamlined and supportive process to make claiming R&D tax relief as straightforward as possible. So we've iterated our own process over the years, and essentially we try and make it as light touch as possible so it doesn't impact upon your day job. So firstly, it'll start with us collecting some initial information about your business, your projects, and where the innovation is taking place. From there, we conduct a thorough technical assessment to identify qualified activities and ensure we're fully aligned with HMRC's criteria. In your industry, this can often be with construction directors or site managers, those that have first-hand experience and involvement in the project challenges that they had to overcome. Now, what we do not expect is everybody out there or anyone on this call to be an R&D expert and know what would qualify, what wouldn't. That is our job as part of our relationship, is to ensure that what your activity has been conducted, we can ultimately frame it in a way whereby it meets HMRC's guidelines for R&D for tax purposes. Now, the way in which we do that is through conversation, by just finding out about where the challenges were, where the pain points were, where the scratch your head moments were, and delving into them a little bit deeper. Why did you approach it this way? What were the other approaches available to you at the time of the project, etc.? So we will ask very, very straightforward questions, which will ultimately give us the information to identify any qualifying projects. So that's something I just want to make pretty clear to everybody, is no one expects you to be an R&D expert, but just have a basic level of knowledge that if something has been, or your phone has rung a lot more on a particular project that it typically would, because there's been challenges with that project, normally there's been a process that's been put in place to overcome those challenges. That is potentially where the R&D happens. So those are the elements that we would home in on when we were having a conversation, an individual conversation, to see exactly where we might be able to support with writing a narrative to HMRC and collating all the information to process a claim. So the next step for us is about maximising the value of your claim. So what we do is we will prepare a clear, detailed report that supports every figure and every activity we're putting forward to HMRC. And we will outline exactly how your activity meets the HMRC guidelines. Once we've submitted, there's typically a 28-day review period with HMRC, after which you'll receive your tax relief, your client benefit. So our goal is to make this process seamless, compliant, and valuable, whilst giving you peace of mind every step of the way. So thank you for your time today. I hope this session helped focus your attention a little bit more on where R&D might be within your organisation, and on just how much an untapped R&D potential exists within the construction and house building sectors. So to quickly recap what we've covered today, what R&D tax relief is and why it's so relevant to this industry, the key criteria HMRC looks for: scientific or technological uncertainty, a genuine advance, and a systematic approach. The fact that only 4% of claims come from construction, despite the volume of innovation happening every day, and real examples from both on-site and off-site construction. And of course, the importance of the 6-month pre-notification rule. So if you're claiming for the first time or returning after a gap, that deadline is critical to keep in mind. And for me, is probably the key thing for you to take away right now and see whether or not it aligns with your year-end dates, whether or not it's something that you need to take action for immediately. So if today's session has prompted you to think about where innovation is happening in your projects, I'd like to offer you a free, no obligation conversation with either me or a member of our specialist team. So where we'll explore your projects, your business, and help you understand exactly what you could be entitled to, all in a straightforward and compliant manner. So thank you once again for your time, and thank you again to Nick and his team for giving us the platform and the opportunity to speak to you all today around where R&D could potentially be in the house building sector.